Hey, welcome to the part 2 of our episode with Shannon Q. We went a little over on the last one, but still some great content ahead. Enjoy. So I'm still interested in your upbringing here. You're telling me that you speak Mandarin. Where did you grow up at?
I grew up, my dad was in the Coast Guard, so
Okay.
I was a military brat. So
Okay.
I feel like it kind of makes you a bit of a chameleon. Anybody who's a military brat knows you move around and you go to multiple elementary schools and high schools and everything. But we did land. I grew up in Gig Harbor, Washington, and then moved here. And ironically, my dad was in the Coast Guard, and he retired in a place with no water within like 5,000 miles. So then I grew up here in Tempe, and then ended up going to University of Arizona. And then I graduated and went up to San Francisco, and I worked in marketing up in San Francisco for about 10 years. So I did trade show marketing, but I've always been in outside sales. I think I've always been that kind of, I've always wanted to, the harder I worked, the more money I wanted to make, as opposed to just working hard and being set. I always wanted to be able to get paid for as hard as I worked. So I always kind of wanted to be in some sort of a career like that. So yeah, and I've always been in marketing or sales in some way. And I think I've always liked the relationship part of sales and marketing, where you're in it to help somebody do something, and make them better, and they really appreciate you when you actually do care about the outcome. Like, they're not a paycheck, and that's something where in our industry, if we can treat people the way we would want to be treated, meaning you really need to be genuinely interested on where you put your client and what happens when you sell their house. And it is a great paycheck at the end, but at the end of the day, you have to be like really happy with, you made a great paycheck, but is your client really happy? Like, did you do everything to make sure that your client got the most for their house, and that you didn't like do something on the side just because it was beneficial to you? Like, was everything the way it's supposed to be? And so I think that's also in sales. It's just making sure that I did trade show sales, which were a lot of fun. And actually it was really fun because I lived in San Francisco when the internet was developed. That shows my age, right? So, but it was crazy because my clients were Netscape, Yahoo, Cisco Systems, and all of that, and semiconductor companies like Novellus and Applied Materials. Like, those were my clients. And I remember the internet had just launched, and so everybody was doing trade shows about tech. Everything was, and it was crazy. It was the craziest time to be in San Francisco. It was, the energy and everything was just amazing. And like, being in sales was so fun because you had these trade shows where the trade show booths were, even now I think we have a lot of them where they spend a lot of money, but then they were spending a lot of money on, Apple. I think Apple was, or like Oracle was a big one up there. And so it was just such a fun time. And now I feel like we're kind of getting back into that, where technology created a way for us to communicate behind a screen.
Right.
But real estate is one of those things which is why open houses have been around for 100 years. And real estate is one of those things that you could do a virtual tour on a property, but a buyer really isn't going to buy it until they touch and feel it.
And smell.
Right? And smell it. And also, how does it feel?
Yeah.
Is it homey to them? Because, like, certain homes feel like home, and others might feel like home to somebody, but a doctor's office to another, because of how white they are, but they don't know it till you go in, and it's like, oh, this is my house, and that's real estate. And it's always going to be like that. So online has given the consumer a lot more access than they ever did, but it doesn't give them access to the front door, right?
Makes sense, right. Still need an agent.
Still need somebody to get you in there, right?
Makes sense. Okay. So, and you said you kind of felt this way your whole life. You wanted to kind of be in this type of a business. Even as a little girl, you were thinking that way, or? What
I
inspired
don't
you then?
know. I
What?
don't know. I was always one of those high school kids. Like I did DECA.
Okay.
Remember DECA? I was actually a judge for DECA.
Okay.
About a year ago, I got asked to be a judge for DECA. It was down in Ahwatukee, and it was so cool because I did that in high school, where these kids were given a piece of paper, and it had all these things about a company, and they had to figure out a marketing plan in about 5 to 10 minutes, and they had to sit there and they had to write down the plan, and then they had to come present it to me. And they had to present their marketing plan and why their marketing plan was going to work and who their demographic would be and all these other things. And it was like, I mean, some kids were not good. And then other kids, you were like, I want to hire you. Like, how old are you? Then you're 16. Okay, can I get your card? You know, it's like at 18 years old, you know, they're just going to be, they were just so dialed into
Cool, yeah.
like everything, you know. And well, one kid, it was a guy that ended up having to sell me handbags, you know,
Okay.
and it was unbelievable. It was just his presentation. I was like, that was amazing. I was like, I'm gonna give you like, and a lot of these kids that they ended up having like the finals and the semifinals and all of that. So I think I've always been very social. I've always been outgoing that way. I just, until now, until I became a realtor, I mean, real estate, and it's Gary Vanderchuk is a really amazing person to follow in regards to the fact if you don't love what you do, then change it. Because I don't go to work. There's not a day that I go to work because I love it. I get up in the morning and I love my clients. I love what I'm doing. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy. Agents know it's not easy. It's not easy. Every day is not. We drink a lot of alcohol for a reason, but it's not that it doesn't come with its, oh my gosh, I hate this job, because we do that. But at the end of the day, we love it, you know, and because we're actually serving people and we're helping. It's like what we do is really helping people, and it is something that is, I mean, they're so appreciative if you do it in a way that you really did add value to their experience, you know. So
Cool. Thank you. So, are you a reader much?
yes, yes.
Would you mind sharing like your favorite book or
Okay.
what
I
about
will
the
tell
book?
you, this is my favorite book, and it's my favorite book. I'm an entrepreneur, obviously. I've always kind of been one, but is the Tribe of Mentors. You ever heard of it?
I haven't heard of that.
Okay, it's by Tim Ferriss, who
Okay, yeah,
also
I know
has
Tim.
one of the most popular podcasts. He actually has multiple books along these lines, but this is a book that I was given when about 3 years ago, from a colleague of mine, and I've probably given it to 20 people since. I go on Amazon and I go, I'm going to get you a book. And I do. And I send it to them and they're like, this is the best book. This is so good. And then they give it to 10 people. And it's one of those. So Tim Ferriss interviewed, I'm not sure how many, I think it's about 100 to 150 of the top entrepreneurs in the world. And he asked them 10 questions. And questions like, what is your most favorite purchase under $100 that changed your life, like kind of a thing like that? What's your favorite book, right? But the biggest thing was like, what is your biggest failure, and how do you think that helped you in your life? And also, what was your biggest success, and all these things. And it's so great because everyone from Amazon to Elon Musk to anybody who, the owner of Starbucks, like it's all these people, and they talk about the journey and every single one of them is like, you know, we're always in a hurry to get here, but we forget about we're here and we want to be here, but we don't enjoy this part, right, of getting there, and that it takes time. Right. It takes time to grow a business. It takes time to grow relationships, and it takes time to do anything. But it's really amazing the just every night, and it's a great read for at night because every chapter, like every person is a chapter, and the chapters are maybe 3 pages. So at night it's a good nighttime read where you're sitting in bed and you want to read something, and but they all just talk about how many times they failed, and then how many times they got back up, and how many times they failed. And if you look at like Pandora, Spotify. We were talking about that. I mean, they failed and failed and failed, and everybody says, "Oh, why are you doing that? And why are you doing this?" And and then all of a sudden they just go, "Because I believe in it, and I'm going to do good at this." And it's really believing in yourself, no matter what you're in, whether you're a realtor. If you want to be a realtor, go become a good realtor and find everything out that you need to learn in order to become a good agent, if that's what you want to do, and that's my hands down my favorite.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So you should get it. I might just send it to you. I'll just go on my Amazon.
I'm looking forward.
I'll go on my Amazon account and just send it to you.
I'm looking forward to it.
That
sounds like a good one. Sounds like a good one.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. I typically ask kind of those same questions. Is there anything that you would redo?
Yes, I would redo. Yes, I think every person that has their own company would redo everything. I think as a realtor, I had a really interesting journey to where I got to, and I didn't really open up. I think present moment. I didn't really get into the present moment thinking until about 3 or 4 years ago. I really got tied into that, and actually a tribe of mentors, actually every single person talks about that, is being present, because when you're present you are aware of what's coming into your life and you pay attention to it, and when you're not present you miss it, you miss things, they come and they go because you're not paying attention to what's going on. And so I feel like I don't think what I would do differently, I don't think I would do anything differently. I think in regards to real estate, I wouldn't. I think in regards to my company, I definitely think, every entrepreneur has, it's not an easy, nobody just goes, I decided to create a company and look where we are, woohoo, that doesn't happen. So there's a journey and there's a lot of mistakes. So I think I would wish I could if I knew now what I knew, if I knew then what I knew now, it'd be a totally different thing, right? There's a lot of things that you do wrong, but I think you can't really change that because that's growing, that's life, I think. So
I appreciate you sharing that and being real about that. There's things we do wrong, right? And just gotta push forward and keep moving.
You gotta, right. And I think that's what is so, depression's such a big thing right now. And I really think that the past, something that I've been taught by somebody that about 3 years ago is the past is gone and the present, the future isn't here. So we don't know what's going to happen, and everybody knows that. I mean, the future, we wake up and 9/11 happens. We wake up and somebody just dies on us. There's a lot of things. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. But what we do know is what's here. I know right now I'm talking to you, right? So I can't be thinking about anything else other than talking to you because the past is gone. We can't do anything about it. And we also can't sit there and sulk in what we did wrong, as long as and if it means you have to apologize or make up or do whatever, but it's got to be gone. It's got to be swept under the rug, and you have to learn from it and then move forward. And that's the only way that you're ever going to be successful in anything, even in relationships, like in a marriage and anything with your kids. You can't. Everybody makes mistakes. It's just who we are, and it's just being able to know that everybody has that day where you just have a really, really, really bad day. Nobody's nice to you. Everybody hates you. Everybody's yelling at you. Everybody's calling because your credit card payment was late. You know what I mean? We all have those days, and I think sometimes they all hit on the same day, and you just want to be like, are you kidding? But you just got to be like, you know what? Tomorrow is going to be better. So it's got to be better because it can't be worse than today, right? And you just have to get up, and then all of a sudden, if you are there and you're present, something happens, and you're just all of a sudden go, oh my gosh, you get a phone call, or you get, a client, you had an open house and everybody was mean to you and nobody was nice and this and that. You go home and you're like, I hate this. And then the next morning, a client you haven't talked to in 2 years calls you and be like, can you come list our house? And you never know when that's going to happen. And that's another thing about getting in front of people is you never know who's going to come in to your open house. You never know who's going to come in, but if you're open to them coming in and you're open to, that, then it happens. And like I have a client that I just closed on who just moved to North Carolina, but I had a house go on the market 18 months ago, and I had an open house. I've always like kind of done this, but now I do it even more. That the day the house goes active, I always had an open house, and she came in and she was a neighbor down below. She wanted a 3-bedroom. She had a 2-bedroom, and she ended up buying the house. I sold the 2-bedroom downstairs. Then they just called me a couple months ago, and now they're moving to North Carolina. So I sold the condo again, and their kids just graduated college, and they're not moving to North Carolina. So I have 2 houses, and I'm buying for both of their kids. That's 5 transactions, but they're also some of my best friends. Like I golf with them, and we go to dinner with them, and I'm like, gosh, I would have never met you. I would have never had you in my life. I mean, regardless of the real estate, like I would have never had you as a friend if I hadn't, been open to having an open house or even getting myself out there and getting in front of people. So
I love that, being open to. I like it.
It's called, and I have a girl who teaches me, who's like been just such a mentor to me, and it's called clogging your flow. Do you ever know? So if you are not present, if you're not here, which means at an open house, if you're not wanting to be there, then don't be there.
Don't be there.
Right? And if you don't want, that's just one of those things. If you don't want to be there, if your son has a soccer game that you're missing, don't have an open house because you don't want to be there and you're not going to be open to anything. You just want it to, you're like the clock, you're looking at the clock. Whereas if you're open, you're like, this is my job. I'm here and I'm going to meet people today, and everybody who comes in, I'm going to be nice to, right? Because I'm here, I'm present. And it's where, and if you're not, then you're not open. And people know you're not open. They're not, you have to be open to whatever it is that's going to come in. But it's interesting is there are people that talk about things that they see when they're present that other people didn't notice. Like, did you notice that the butterfly flying around us? And they're like, well, what butterfly? Because they weren't there. They were thinking about something else, whereas that person was having lunch and all they could pay attention to was the butterfly because they were there, right? They were mentally there. They weren't somewhere else. And I think that is such a key part of being successful in anything. You just have to be, you got to be open, right? And that's, and it's interesting is how I got my start here when I came back from China. I answered a Craigslist ad, and I was sitting there, and I was holding open houses. And again, what I would do is I would learn how to do them next time before I would do. I would do them, and then the agent, I would hand the leads over to the listing agent and be like, here's everybody that came into the open house. And the agent's looking at me.
Wait, what?
Thanks, I think. Bye. I was like, and that's what I thought I was supposed to do. Nobody told me any different. I was like, this sucks. I'm not really, how am I getting business out of this again? And they're like, well, you keep giving us the leads. I was like, oh, I thought I was supposed to do that, and so like nobody told me what I was supposed to do. So I think learning would have been probably my thing, but I did answer an ad in Craigslist, and this guy said, I have too many buyers. This was in 2011, 2012, and I need a buyer agent. And I was like, you don't have too many, who has too many buyers, And so I just thought, I'm just gonna do it. It came into my life. Here's where present moment is. For some reason, that came into my Craigslist. For some reason I saw it. It's not, nothing is coincidence. Like, and if we pay attention to things, like if somebody reaches out to us or we get a text or we see something and it reminds us of somebody, call them, text them, because that thought or that person came into our thought process for a reason. And so it comes in and then we just go, oh, it must have been something else, but it does. Everything comes in when you're open. And so I'm watching this and I'm like, I'm going to call this Craigslist ad. So I did. That guy goes, I have too many buyers. I can't handle it. I am a listing broker for HUD. This was in 2011, 2012. And he said, I get 10 listings a week right now. And my phone number is on every one of the signs. And he goes, I can't take them. Are you wanting to be a buyer's agent? And I was like, I'll do anything, because I didn't, like, whatever. And he's like, okay. He goes, but this is, I called it the crying baby. This phone rang all the time. He had 40 houses on the market at one point, and I was the only one with the bat phone. And I was like, the thing would call and call and call and call, and the houses were all over the valley. So I would do a loop on the 101. I'd go to like Peoria, then I'd go to Avondale, then I'd go to Ahwatukee, then I'd go to Chandler, then I'd come up, and I'd be like, oh my God, this is like, and it just was on and on and on. And I ended up getting investors that were calling on the signs. And then the investors would call that they bought like 10 houses at a time. So I would sell them 10 houses. And then they kept them, and then they put them all back on the market. And then I held open houses on all of them, and I went crazy. Like, I was holding open houses, but that was the thing that I train agents. I was holding open houses in Peoria and Glendale and Chandler, and because I always held open houses on all these properties, and I was getting clients everywhere, and it was crazy. Where I was like, okay, I got to narrow this down, because I'm driving all over the valley. And even 6 months ago, I had a client that I sold a house to probably in 2012, and then I sold her another house in 2013, and another one in 2017, all in Goodyear. So I had to sell her another house in Goodyear, because she kept making money on these houses, and I've had her as a client forever. And I was like, oh, I'm driving to Goodyear today. And I was like, what are you doing in Goodyear? Oh, I've had this client for 10 years, and it's crazy, because actually, another thing that I would change, I am not good at CRMs. I'm not good at follow-up. And I probably have a database of clients that if I kept every client that I ever sold a house to, I have clients who reach out to me that I haven't talked to in 3 years and say, hey, well, we're ready to sell. And I'm like, I got to look them up sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh, who are they? I'm like, oh yeah, oh hi, And I'm like, okay, and then I haven't talked to them in 3 years, but yet they won't go to another agent, and that means I did my job right on the front end,
Cool.
So.
Well, I appreciate you being here. It's been fun. It's been great, and we had some great pearls and nuggets in there. So thank you so much. But I just wanted to give you the last little bit of time to let people know where we can find you.
Yeah, well, I am obviously Instagram and Facebook, Shannon Quagliata, not Q, Quagliata. And I'm also on Open Houses Direct. We have Open Houses Direct. We have a YouTube channel with a lot of our courses that talk about everything that we're talking about here. But we also have an Instagram and a Facebook as well. So
awesome.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we put your info on the page as well.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is so fun. Yeah.
Great.